challenges, things that have helped you move from living by default to living by design? You may or may not be able to point to this I learned or that I learned. Maybe it was a gradual process, but are there any turning points that you can recognize?
Yeah, so for me, it was coming out of management, right? Like management definitely burned me out. And so I knew kind of like what I didn't want. It was actually like, kind of like you and Paulette, like Dana and I just don't argue. And like the first real argument we ever had in our relationship, we'd been 7 years in and we were engaged to be married, and it was just, I was a DM at the time, and it was about us not spending time and drifting apart, right? Like all her love languages were not, I was not speaking them. And so that was one of the first times that it was like a big kick in the pants. You know, a lot of times we go into these homes where we see the father come home or the mother come home from work and doesn't even say hi to the family, and you know, the kids don't even notice that the parent is home, and it's just like, I knew I didn't want that. And then we've gone into families, homes like RVs or trailers or you know whatever, and you can just tell the love and the family dynamic going on in there. And so one of the things that we always did early on in our relationship, like Dana and I have been together since I was 16 years old, and so we had the benefit, the fortune to be able to grow up together and grow together. And she's really good about, like, when I go this way, she's able to pull me back, and when she goes that way, you know, she's big on communication, which I'm horrible at, but she forces me to do that. And so one of the things that we always have done is like sit down and dream build together, and we'll take kind of stock. Like we used to do it like regularly in the calendar kind of thing, you know, like big goals once a quarter. And when we sit down to do this, it's like 6 months, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. It's really awesome actually going into the attic and pulling out these books that we had, and we're like, check, check, check. Why was that ever even on the list, right? Like how your priorities change and things like that. But I think kind of pretty early on, we had a clear vision of the life we did want to live, and also the life we didn't want to live. And then we kind of designed that. And so, you know, when people come to our house and get to see the way that we live, you know, DP's going to come out actually in a couple weeks. Right? And people are like, dude, you're so lucky. This is stupid. I'm not lucky. It's a life of design.
So good. Turning points, I'd say I'm at this point, most people know this, but a year and a half ago, I stopped doing all traditional events. That was very uncomfortable and very scary. The only events I do are service events. I do 12 to 15 a year, something like that. That's it. So therefore, structure is extremely important. Kind of like a little bit of what Danny was saying. And some of you that watch my videos that I share on social media, is I don't stop until the work is done, because I have a target every day of what I have to do. So a turning point for me was a certain number of calls every single day. And I'm so committed to that, it's not even funny. And so I don't hit it every day, but I'm committed to it. So having the first goal, even if you fall short, you're gonna hit it most of the time, and you're gonna go beyond it a lot of the time too. And the reason I hit the target is I always have to text it to someone that I don't want to text bad numbers to, because then we have a discussion about it I don't have time for, and I'd rather just make the damn calls than have a discussion about why it sucked, right? So that's something that's really helped me, and a lot of you also know for a year and a half almost, I won't have any sugar or wine or alcohol until I've completed 3 workouts for the week. Dan, I completed my 3rd one this morning so we can have Pinot. I think about these things, but I have to earn my rewards. It's always earned, it's never just you get it. And I think I lived a lot of my life just going off of what I want and how I feel, and I want this, and I'm a brat, and I'm gonna go get it, and that just is never good for anyone. And I don't want my kids or my niece or nephew or anyone saying, oh, that's how I'm gonna act. The world is not great when people act on what they want and disregard others. It's all about earning and getting the respect from everybody and making sure that you're igniting the inspiration in others so other people can have a better life because of what you're doing. And it's not hard, it's not easy to do that. It's so hard. I made a ton of calls. I've been up since 5:45 because I know I'd be here most of the day. But these are all turning points I wanted to share with you guys. It is about living a life by design, not by default. For me, design equals cause, default equals effect. That's how I always think of it. I'm designing, I'm causing, I'm doing it. I'm not just waking up and doing a show because that's the one I've always done. I'm examining, are these the right ones to do? Or I'm just hanging on to it because I have a scarcity mindset. That's something I would encourage a lot of you guys to do as well. Are you just comfortable because you're doing what you've always done and you're going to get what you always got? Or are you actually wanting to up your level and get bigger things rather than just be mediocre your whole life? There's some answers for you.
It's beautiful. It's great stuff.
So I did just bullet points for these three. The biggest turning points would have been actually confronting financial success, forcing myself to learn QuickBooks with a bright, shiny GED, terrible at math, but I was like, she's not gonna do it, I gotta do it. And so confronting our finances, seeing what our profit and loss is and being able to see that in real time as the year goes on is huge. That's what led us to a lot of the decisions we made the last couple of years. Which leads me to the second thing, which is CPO power of choice. When COVID hit, events went away. We were clever enough to lean in. We didn't realize everyone would be stuck at home going, look how crap my knives are, and then buy a ton of them. That was really fun. But being able to choose, okay, we're now gonna use these layers for CPO and not events. And then when events came back, we were kind of like, this is kind of more fun. But being able to make that choice. Yeah, well, the profitability led into that, which is like we looked at the amount of profit we were losing doing events, the way we were doing them, and then got really comfortable with the CPO layers we had chosen and just went, now let's just try this, even though it's scary, and right now it's very scary because, you know, the CGC market's a little crazy. It's not dead, we're still doing great. She's still gonna take on my stupid cup again, damn it. You know, what are you gonna do? And then the last one, the biggest turning point would be Deanna's biggest close on convincing me to quit my job, sell my company, and work with her full time, which was incredibly scary to go down to one income for the first time in our entire lives. And the bravery and determination for her to stick with that crazy idea. And now what, eight years later?
Yeah.
Seems to be going okay. So that was a good turning point.
Great.
Turning points for me, you know, I was a district manager for Cutco for 9 years, and I credit a lot of that experience to running my business today, which I really appreciate. But when I came back to the business, I sucked. Man, it was interesting because I thought I was like, I knew everything because I taught people how to sell knives. And I realized, you know, these individuals were kicking butt, and I trained with like Karim and different people. But I was coaching with John Israel one year, and he told me this quote that really, when I got off the phone, I started crying because he said, until the pain is great enough, that's when you'll make that, you know, change. Because I was just average. And he said, you're okay with being average. And then I thought about my family, and I was just like, F that, I don't want to be average, I want to be a legend to my kids and to my family. So, you know, that was a big turning point for me about like, I need to get rid of, you know, whether I'm thinking and just go out and seek knowledge. And so I started surrounding myself with the right people. And that was a big turning point for me. I started asking questions, I call people, I reach out. You know, your circle of influence is really important. And, you know, from, you know, 125K to 2 to 3 to 4, now averaging like 5 to 600K a year. You know, that's an important thing. And one thing that was a turning point is I love sharing my journey with my kids. Like I took Daniel out to lunch or dinner the other day, and I just, you know, seeing my 21-year-old, you know, go through certain things, and I get to share like my experiences with him about life. And him going like, because my dad didn't do that for me. And so those are really things that drive me and focus, you know, get me focused on that, turning points, and just, I want to provide for them the best I can, so when I leave, they can say, my dad was a badass.
Nice. Not happy to be an average. I'm going to combine these next two questions because they're real similar.
I wrote the same thing. I just reread it and I went, that's the same thing twice.
So the question basically has to do with, you know, when I observe you guys, CSPs, I see people that the ones I pay close enough attention to. I've worked with Leah's and Michael's and some of you guys. I see that there are sometimes there's these growth spurts, and usually it has to do with something that you've adjusted in your business, or maybe it's improving your skill on selling. Like Chase Bergendahl, you know, who's basically third year in a row now winning the Bush, the May Bush. Her average order size is up like 20%. Fair. I said, what changed? What did you do differently? And she said, well, I learned how to sell ultimates. You know, so it's things like that. What improvements on effectiveness? What role has that played in your ability to live life by design? And then also efficiency, which will have to do with systems and organizations and things like that. So, how much of a role has that played, and what have been the big needle movers? I guess is the question.
Yeah, so I think really early in my career, I didn't take the time to sharpen the axe, right? Like I'd go to a conference, take notes, take a lot of notes, and then never look at them again, things like that. There came a point like when, after I left management and I had like a super fun year, and then I was like, all right, I should probably get back to life. That we started like looking, that's when we were really like mapping out the life of our design and what we would want, what kind of income that would require, when we want to retire, what we'd have to do, and I realized that a lot of that was just not, I didn't want to work, right? And so I had to get better. And so that, I think the first part of that question, the first part of the answer is that the motivation, the desire has to be strong enough in you to want to get better, because you have to foresee, like Danny coached with me, and before we started, his average order was $450, something like that. And then, we coached, and he was like a student, and I coached a lot of people, and he like dug in, and within months, it was like 1,100 or something? 9 something. I mean, he more than doubled it, and he took that time, but then he more than doubled it within a couple months. And so imagine what that means for him. That means either that he can make twice as much in a year working as hard as he did the previous year, or he can work half as much to make the same amount. Either one is a beautiful thing. It just depends on what you want in your life, right? And so that's where you start, right? With that motivation of thinking like, okay, what lifestyle do I want to live? What amount of money do I want to make? If that's a big number and you're willing to work 365, then sharpen that axe, right? If you want to go travel and enjoy life and work 3 months out of the year, then sharpen that axe. So what I did is I looked at all the key areas of the business, right? Closing, objection handling, selling packages, upselling, and then the different parts of our business, right? Knives, flatware, cookware, accessories. And I kind of broke it all down, and I looked at what are my biggest strengths. So here's the formula. What are my biggest strengths? Okay, how do I further capitalize on those? What are my biggest weaknesses? How can I improve those? And then instead of just like when you go to a conference, how you leave and you're overwhelmed, instead of just getting that overwhelming feeling, go, okay, what out of all this, everything I've written down now, what's going to be the biggest needle mover right now in my life? And then zone in on that, the one thing, right? And focus on that. And once you have that down, move on to the next one thing. And it's crazy how like you're going to start to have this like parabolic growth all around, because now you fix the one thing, and you're still getting better at that. And you're adding layers and layers, and it ramps up from there.
Great.
Well said. I'm sharpening my axe with Karim right now. I'm coaching with him. So how's that for doing no shows? I'm still gonna sell you a kitchen. So I'm in. So I want to give a shout out to Tony, Jeremy, and Eric. The whole thing that was discussed a little earlier about, it's only been actually mentioned a couple times today, 10 pays, 12 pays. It's just what all my orders are just gonna be now. When Eric mentioned at a talk, I don't know, 5 years ago, I was like, that's what it is, that's my thing, that's what I want. And COVID helped me with that, because there weren't a lot of other options. So, you guys, like, and we can go into a ton of detail later on, but whether it's a residential order, a CGC order, business gift order, there's always 2 parts to every order I write up. Most of the time, 70%. Okay. I'm at this point, out of a million, 25% of my business is done virtually, maybe 30%. I'm not in front of someone. I love that game. Talk about profitable. I don't go anywhere. I don't do anything. I'm in my pajamas, making thousands. I'm okay with that. It allows me to be more present with this guy, family, maybe future family.
Ooh, detail on that.
Things are just better. So my goal now is to make it 50%. If I can do at least $500,000 a year, not being in front of people, I'm all for that. That's why I'm so into my phone. These calls, a lot of times, you guys, I'm just calling people to remind them their next shipment's coming. Guess what? That counts as a call for me. I'm okay with that call. And I usually send text videos, you guys know that. So sharpening my axe, being more virtual, which I can be more efficient with my time. Again, Eric and Jeremy are really good about that on the second halves and 12 pays and all that, so hit them up as well. And also, I am committed to personal growth too. Chuck and I have really dove into this the last couple of years. I'd say at least 6 to 10 hours a week each we spend on this, even if I had like the crappiest day yesterday, and I still went and did personal growth and I read and studied for 3 hours. Even if the day sucked, it's all the more reason I need to be better about sharpening my axe, right? It's a commitment. What's that quote, Dan, that you will rarely rise to the level, can you say it? It's you'll raise you surpass the level of your personal development.
Your income, your success, your anything will seldom rise, seldom surpass your level of personal development.
Okay, exactly that. Like it makes sense, and everyone, I think, can benefit from that mindset. Also, last thing I will mention is, like, in terms of effectiveness, you guys need to talk to your customers more. A lot of people show up to the fair, and I'm guilty of this, and I'm so tired, and that's it. They never talk to those people again. Well, sometimes people ask, well, who the heck are you calling all the time? Download your top 250 people. Call 25 a week minimum. Why are you not talking to them? They're your best people feeding 80% of your business. Why wouldn't you talk to them? As we just talked about 4 times, 90+% of your customers want to buy more Cutco. Those are the best people. Those are the cream of the crop people. Call them. Even if it's 5 calls before a shift, you will sell 100K plus more a year. And then the last thing I'll say on that is just choose your environment and your sphere wisely. This is something Chuck and I have talked about a lot lately. We're somewhat nitpicky on who we hang around and who we find is enhancing our lives versus not. Who's interested in us versus interesting in themselves? Who's creating and wanting to create on their relationship? Leah's reached out to me 3 times in the last 48 hours. I miss you. My life is, I'm so tired. Let's do something. I love her for that. That's something that enhances my life. You will never see me pick up a tabloid magazine or watch a reality TV show, ever. That just doesn't enhance my life. I'm not saying anyone's wrong for doing that. But if it's not making me feel like I have a better IQ and me becoming a better person, I'm not gonna do it. It's just not gonna help, not just me, but it's not gonna help my customers, it's not gonna help my relationship. If I'm gonna watch something silly, it's gonna be Family Guy, so I can laugh out loud, because that is funny. If it's not drama, it's funny, right? Who doesn't wanna laugh? You guys see the difference, right? Answer yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. All right, you're track. All right, I'm gonna stop talking now. There's my answer.
Sure you will.
That was a passionate one.
So in terms of effectiveness and efficiency, you guys would never guess this, but she's a workaholic. And she will absolutely work herself into the ground, literally. She used to work the LA County Fair so hard that she would attempt to get out of bed and just hit the ground like a dead body. There was once I thought it was a dead body. Luckily, she was still breathing. So one thing that we did to become more effective and efficient is, it's kind of a reverse problem, but we actually started setting quota caps on certain things, especially the things that she loved to do and would overdo. A good example of this, and when you first start in CGC or business gifts, you kind of have to do like 5 meetings a week. You have to get in there and just grind and hustle, because you need the leads, you need the prospects, you need to talk to people, you need to be in front of them to get any sales. Once you've built it up, doing 5 meetings a week not only becomes financially not feasible in a long-term sense, because if you're sponsoring meals every single one, you just end up going broke trying to do it. It's very difficult. And there's no time left in the week, unless you work yourself to death, to do all the follow-up calls and try to set up the one-on-ones and do the one-on-ones. So we've been dialing this in, only because she will literally be like, oh, I have a service event, and I'm doing 14 meetings, and I was like, am I married? Where the hell is this shit? So we set up a quota where now Deanna has, you have to do this many calls, this many emails, but she actually can only do 2 events a week. So a team meeting and a service event. That's 2. 2 team meetings.
Sometimes
Yeah, see what I deal with?
3. 2 TV and service.
She's like, no, what is
Once
it?
a month.
Networking events don't count. I'm like, yes, they do. You're gone the whole day. Hours, you talk to a bunch of people, and you come home with no CPO. No, 2. And having to stick to this, even though she doesn't want to, because she wants to do more, and she thinks if you did, it's kind of the event mindset when you don't have any other layers. If you're just doing events, you're just like, I need the maximum number of shifts, even if it kills me. Which, I'm not hating on that, it's an understandable business model if that's your only layer. He's like, thanks, bro. We had to set a cap on it to make sure that there was enough time to stop work at 6 o'clock, go on a date, spend time with family, not work 7 days a week. So really dialing in our numbers has been huge in terms of going, okay, now that we have all this extra time, let's make a ton of calls, let's answer a bunch of emails, but you have to stop at some point and go, I need to do this much work, and then spend the rest of the time on the balance so that it is definitely more a life by design, not default. I was gonna drop the mic, but he needed it.
So effectiveness and efficiency for me, how that played a role was, I just really looked at myself and just started working on myself. And what I mean by that is, one of the biggest things that helped me out is infiltrating a mastermind group. I was the only guy. It was great. But the cool thing is about being around those badass women is that I realized I need to bring something to the table. And so it really just forced me to become more effective and efficient on my day-to-day activities. And so, just like they've all alluded to, there's things that you know in your schedule that you should be doing it, and you need to get your ass to your office and just do it. And it's just really, that simple. There's nothing else about it. So that was the first thing I think that helped me become more effective and efficient was like, okay, if I'm going to be part of this group, right, I need to be good. I need to bring something to the table. So that was one thing. The other thing that I think helped me out a lot was the structure. Something that Chuck and Deanna shared with Michelle and I is this, what we call the CEO meeting. This is, we have weekly meetings, right? And so ours are not 4-hour meetings. They're like on level 12. But we get together for, maybe it's an hour, maybe it's 90 minutes, and we go over our calendar, right? We have to know everything that's going on, and the first thing we always go over is the kids' schedule, right? With school and stuff like that, and Deanna and me are now in college, so I don't gotta worry about it, but if you were asking me like the last 6 years, that's what we did, right? Is that structure, that schedule, so I knew like, okay, Mia has a game at 3:30, I gotta be done by 3, things like that. And then I would go back to the office, and continue working. So structure, I think, is important. A lot of you that have kids is key. And when you're supposed to be working, be working. A lot of times I caught myself and I learned this from, Karim was like, get off Facebook, bro. Right? And so sometimes it's been a distraction, and so it's like, all right, I gotta get back on task. So one of the things I started doing to be effective and efficient is I would literally set a timer on my phone. Okay, for the next 30 minutes, for the next 60 minutes, I'm gonna check emails, or I'm gonna make phone calls, or I'm gonna do follow-up phone calls, or whatever. I'm gonna schedule team meetings, and then that alarm goes off. I'm like, done. Move on to the next task. Right? And it really kept me on track. And then like, hey, for the next 30 minutes, I'm gonna make some phone calls and reach out to people in the community that can help me out. And a lot of you guys got those phone calls. So that's what allowed me to become more effective and efficient with what I gotta do.
Okay, great. All right. One down here for last. You can let Danny go first this time. You have to make
Mic drop.
We had a great discussion, I thought, those of you that were at kickoff conference on finances, and Chuck and Deanna kind of had some bullet points. Most people want to be financially secure, want security, don't want to be stressed out from money week by week. And it's a combination of being more effective, being more efficient, and then having a focus on, on the finances. Talk about your journey with just financial, like what role did wanting to build wealth have to do with creating the lifestyle you have?
You guys should write this down. Smith Barney. I've been here 26 years. My dumb ass started saving in 2015. So the reason I started doing this, I didn't want to live in my in-laws' house anymore. I love them. Yeah, I do. But I wanted my own place. And so I started saving 10% of my bonus, and then shortly after, it was up to 25% and 50%. There's been months where I save 100% of my bonus. And we've had a conversation about that a long time ago. So that's the number one thing at Smith Barney. Set it up and go for it. The other thing that I do on a weekly basis is my events withholding and my tax withholding. I started at 2% and now it's up to 10%. And that is a huge impact on my life. I remember when COVID hit up, there was like a lot of money sitting, and then I was like, oh, I should just take that money and pay off my credit cards, So, but the reason I was able to buy my home is because of Smith Barney. I also have an awesome tax guy that's taught me a lot of great things, but there's so much income we can make here. And in the beginning, I was just taking all the money, just being an idiot, just like, oh, I can go do this, do that. You gotta save for the future. So I think for me, the biggest game changer was Smith Barney, weekly withholdings, and I was able to buy my second home. And right now we're in the process of ready to do an ADU to our home. So that's kind of the tips I have there for you as far as that goes. I'm sure I'll have that more to go. QuickBooks is really amazing as well. Because it tells you exactly, what events I should do, events that I should not do, and that's been a big help. Those are my tips for you on that.
So you said Smith Barney, you guys know what you're talking about? Companies, Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney. Forced savings is basically your answer, so I can relate to that all day long. Okay, Chuck?
So there's a rule of business that any organization will spend as much as it makes, no matter what you do. We've all had that experience where we have a great month, we put it all on the same bank account, and we're like, I got plenty. You just do your thing, and you do your bills, and you go have a dinner, you turn around and it's gone. And the next month you make half as much, same thing happens. Next month after that, you make twice as much, same thing happens. You will spend 100% of what you make unless you trick yourself into financial success. And there's only two settings. There's financial attrition, slowly going away until nothing's there, or financial accumulation. So Danny brought up some good points on how to do that. You have to literally spend your money on an investment of some kind. Get it out, get it gone, get it not visible, get it out and away, so that you don't think I have that money to spend, because if you think it's there, you will spend it. So finding tricky little ways of just transferring something, so it's just over here, and you can't quite see it, it's right here. See, you can't see it. Putting it into an actual investment that's long-term is really good, a little scary, sometimes you have to have big chunks to do that, but that's a good way to do it. But really just having a financial plan of any kind, just start doing something and then come up with a plan. Like Danny said, take 5% of your bonus check to start, 10% of your bonus check, just do something and do anything you can to get it out of your bank account, out of your realm of vision. And then what I do is I go into our accounts and stuff about once a month, and I have a separate little spreadsheet, and I go in and I update how much money we're making on, what kind of income?
Passive?
Thank you. Passive income. It's a passive income calculator, right? Just I'm able to look at it and go, okay, I can see in this spreadsheet how much money we have in investments, how much we're making from those investments, but it's not actually an access portal to try to touch any of it. It's a separate thing that I do at a separate time, so I don't accidentally go, well, there's a lot now. Slide that over and go to Europe for 2.5 weeks. Anyway, that's what I did.
Chuck loved his Europe.
I loved it, it was too long.
Okay, so actually I'm a numbers person like most of us, so Dan, you said something I think at our first meeting in 2021 that I thought was really great. And I think this is something everyone can relate to. I might be a little off here, but you said something like, okay, if you can set aside 4 figures, good for you in a year for savings. If you can set aside 5 figures, maybe that's $50,000. Maybe that's a lot, maybe that's a little to some of you, I don't know. That's a pretty good way to set aside and invest a good amount. But Dan said if you can set aside 6 figures a year, so minimally 100,000, and invest that, you're gonna be sitting in a very good position in your life. And for everyone in this room your age, that's still true. If you're in your 20s, if you're 40s, older, it doesn't matter. And so it's funny because some of you in this room have, it's funny, but when I want to buy something that's not something I would usually buy, I'm like, it'd be $100. And some of you looked at me and they're like, Deanna, you freaking you can afford $100 shoes, or like, why is this a question? And I go, because, like, and not everyone understands this. And I get it, yes, I could easily do that, I could easily go to Europe for a month, whatever. But a huge goal we have every year is I tell Chuck, I go, whatever it takes, invest $100 grand in real estate for us. That is one of your main jobs, you have to invest $100 grand. So being that we're one income, living in Los Angeles, and investing $100 grand, that's not obviously netting 100, it's just extra. Now you guys see why my focus is so strong on calls and talking to customers and ending work at a certain time and all these things. That is the focus. Because doing that right now, that spreadsheet he's looking at, it is like, if you ever want to get turned on by a spreadsheet, Danny, that is a hot spreadsheet.
This guy likes a spreadsheet.
And the more zeros, the bigger the O, you know what I mean? So it just came out. There you go. As we said, I think Dan said it, I don't know, I think about it, I just said it. I'm like, I understand that very much. So the thing is, that is the focus, that is what drives me, and it's gonna give us more time for family, other things, travel, whatever that may be. But I know I won't always have to have this much energy and focus around working because of the goals we've made together. And that is a huge goal, because the more, I'll just read this last quote. Evan Keller said this at 2 SC2s ago, and it's my favorite quote ever. 6 months of hardcore focus and alignment with your goals can put you 5 years ahead in life. I'll repeat that once more. 6 months of hardcore focus and alignment with your goals can put you 5 years ahead in life. I'm all about being ahead in life. I don't need to be spinning my wheels and going crazy and work forever. That's not the game plan. Okay? So again, not live life by design, not by default, and this is a way I like to live by design.
So Dana and I have been on all sides of the coin. You know, one time we bought a mattress, and then 2 weeks later we had to return it so we could afford to pay rent and stuff like that, because that week or two didn't go the way it should have, you know? I've lived on top ramen, when I branched in Hawaii, that's what moved me to Hawaii. My bank account was down to the last, I was able to pull out the last 20, because it was right before I got the first check from branching, right, from the class that had gone out like 2 weeks earlier or whatever. And this was not a time where mom could just sell you something, like this was before most of you were born. So, so you know, top ramen, and then I slice up some carrots in there to make it healthy. So early on, Dana and I, again, would talk about like the life that we envision us living. You know, how long do we want to work? We've seen all those people that are, you know, should be retired, but they're still working because they have to, and they're going to have to until they croak. So, you know, we started early on talking about when we want to retire, what we want that to look like. What does retirement look like? Like we just sit at home and play bingo and go to bunko, or are we going to be traveling the world and going and visiting our kids and grandkids wherever they are? And then you kind of like I was saying before, you set the goals, right, or the dream, and then you reverse engineer it, right? Well, what would that take? What would we have to have by then? Especially with what a dollar would be worth by then, right? You guys know what that's been like lately, right? So we reverse engineered that, and then we just started living it when we were young. And so kind of like Chuck was talking about, like companies can do the same thing. Like the habits that you have, they don't change. Like, you know, $1 million, that's why broke people that win the lottery are still broke, because their habits are the same. So it doesn't matter if you guys are only selling, you know, 200 grand right now or whatever it is. Act as if that was $1 million and you had to be like super fiscally responsible with it. Also, act as if that was just $10,000 that you had to make last all year long, right? How responsible would you be with that? And then, you know, just all the things we've always heard before in the company and in every financial talk, you know, pay yourself first. Just with no matter how small your check is, do what they were saying, the forced savings and things like that, to chip away towards those goals. And I think that the biggest thing for us is that when you have a clear vision of what you want to have, you know, and be and do, and when you want to retire, then you will make more responsible will sacrifice now because you see the finish line, you see the end result, and it's pretty exciting. Like, one of my best friends in Hawaii, like, just sold a shark tour company, and he's 50 years old, and he built out a $250,000 minivan, and he drives up and down the Pacific Northwest, mountain biking everywhere, and then he comes out for surf season in Hawaii. Now he's having a custom catamaran being built, like 1.2 mil. Now, and then he's also building a plane as we speak. And so I'm like 50 years old. I was like, that's pretty awesome. It's good motivation. So to be able to see people like that, like really go wild and dream what you would want that to look like, and then again reverse engineer that. Just start.
Okay, that's great. We have one last little question about what you want to value you want to add. But I want to say, Deanna was talking about saving 100,000. I know that I could feel that there are people thinking, well, you know, if I was selling $1 million, you know, maybe I could save, you know, just think about it, that's 10% of her CPO. It's 10% of her CPO. So no matter what you're selling, saves 10% of your CPO.
We don't always hit that mark, that's just.
Well, okay, so make that be, yes. Make that be, well, it's only been a few years you've been doing it, but make that be the goal, because there's a way to do that. If you're selling 200,000, then save $20,000 that year. You might have to sacrifice, but make that a thing, you know, make it feel like, if you force it, like Danny said, I mean, I think forced savings save my financial life. I mean, most people that I know, forced savings is the only reason they got, the biggest reason they got ahead. All right, so last question is this. Just anything in 90 seconds or less, anything you want to add that you think could add value to this discussion?
20 seconds or real?
Not adjusted for burnout time.
Come on, you guys. Come on.
So I think like we talked a lot about systems and processes, and no matter where you're at in your life, like again, great example, the 10%, right? Like use it like that. I like to extrapolate things, right? You think about like, oh, well, I just get Starbucks every day. It's $5 or $6. I always like to get out the calculator and show people times 365, right? And then times 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, right? So every little thing that you do creates bigger action, a bigger outcome. It gets multiplied. Think of it as exponential. And so take people on the journey with you too. Like for me, it's, you know, like Danny, it's all about the family. And these are things that we did with our kids from the time they were little, and taught them how to set goals, right? And like to dream crazy, and then how to reverse engineer that, right? Well, what do you think you would have to do today to accomplish that, right? And they didn't get it right away, but then you ask that question 6 months later, they get it a lot better. And so ask yourself that, right? But so proud to say my daughter just graduated valedictorian.
Nice.
On the parents, Steve.
Why do you think I said that?
I love it. I'd say the only other thing I would share is we have, Karim actually alluded to this earlier, but we have 5 annual goals every year that we make, and if you have a significant other, it is the most vital thing to do with them. Make sure you guys are both aligning with whatever those 5 goals are for the year. Because it's never a matter of, you know, oh, why'd you spend that, or why'd you do this? It's, hey, how does that align with goal number 3? You see, there's a deeper level of like every action has a purpose now. So that's something that we have had a lot of success with in the last few years. In fact, I think we just knocked off like 1 or 2 things, so now we just make 2 more. So I'd say align with your goals, and even if it's just you, have those goals for yourself. And I'm even going beyond and doing the 3, 5, 10-year ones, because those are very important too. So I'd say hit the goals, set them, but make sure you're aware of them and go over them as much as you can.
And it is like Karim said, it's really weird to go back and look at these goals because we've been doing them for a while. And you get to the end of the year and you're like, oh crap, we had that nailed 6 months in. Why didn't we meet earlier? It's just doing them, it has this weird effect of you just start achieving them. So I do recommend that. The last thing I'll say is while I was writing all the answers to these questions, I noticed a common theme, which was none of it's possible without an actual plan. So no matter what you're doing, if you don't have some sort of strategy written out for yourself, you will be pretty much in the same place right now as you are in 6 months with maybe some more CPO, but there's still no strategy, there's still no plan. So if you're gonna make a strategy, you have to have known goals, you have to have a purpose for doing it, You have to have plans on how to achieve it, and you have to have a very clear ideal scene. What does your life look like if it's ideal? And then you compare that to where you are now, and you just start chipping away.
What I'm gonna leave with you as far as value goes is, when you look at, not just me, myself, and the panel, but everybody in this room, there's people in this organization that are at different levels, right? And so some of you are single, right? Some of you are in a relationship and or married. Some of you are married with kids that are young. Some of you have marriage, kids that are teenagers, or like myself, college students, right? And so the question I want to ask you is like, not the question, but the thing I would impose on you is just like, go out and find those people, right? And surround yourself with them and ask questions of like, how did that happen? And the question I have for you is like, I want you to, after this meeting, because we have a lot of great meetings, and we've been to a lot of them, we take a ton of notes like when we talked about, and I've just left it there, right? And that does nobody anything, you're just a good note taker, right? But what I would encourage you is to, after this event, or maybe even tonight, just analyze your habits, right? And what habits do you need to get rid of? And who do I need to go talk to? Who do I need to have a conversation with or spend time with? Because everyone here has an opportunity to find someone else where they're at and where you want to be, right? And so there's a lot of amazing people that you can learn a lot of great things from. But look at the habits that you have, kick those old habits and get some new ones. So we're always here to answer your questions and to help you out and to guide you in the best way we can. So that's my value add.
Thank you, panel.